Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we celebrate women making positive impacts in their communities. In Michigan, we sit in with a group of seniors from Jewish and Palestinian backgrounds who are bridging a cultural divide during an especially contentious time. And in Maryland, we meet some of the women who inspired Rosie the Riveter as they received the Congressional Gold Medal. But we begin with the story of an incredible young woman who is championing change for many underserved Americans. Jordan Zimmerman was diagnosed with non-speaking autism as a child, but that hasn't stopped her from advocating for students with intellectual disabilities. Jamie Wax shows us how she's using her unique voice to fight for others.
Jordan Zimmerman will tell you herself. She's not one to talk, but she sure has a lot to say.
What do you want the world to know about Jordan Zimmerman?
I'm a pretty ordinary person, but I have huge aspirations and dreams for our world.
Zimmerman, now 29, was diagnosed with non-speaking autism as a child, communicating instead through body language and pictures. It wasn't until the age of 18, when she got hold of a communication app on an iPad, that the world got to meet the insightful and verbose girl that had always been living within.
Tell me about that moment when you felt that you had a legitimate voice for the first time.
It was joyful for me, incredible even, and also deeply confusing for my family. They had been told for 18, almost 19 years, by so many professionals, about who I was, what I could do, how I would not be able to feel deeply with others or empathize. And here I was, sharing and debunking everything that was made to be true for so long, but was wildly inaccurate.
So at 18, this technology literally gave a voice to the thoughts you had inside of you. What did that do for you personally?
iPad gave me so much confidence to really connect with people. My brother and I have this amazing, ever-growing relationship, which now started 10 years ago. We didn't have the chance of knowing each other before that time.
Zimmerman's voice, that went unheard for so long, has now made its way to some of the biggest platforms. She serves on the President's Committee for People with Intellectual Disabilities and gives presentations at schools across the country on a mission to get better resources and educational opportunities for students with disabilities.
What would you like to see different in the way that we approach education in this country?
When students are non-speaking or cannot rely on speech to be understood, our school systems frequently segregate them. And once a student is segregated, it's hard to shake things up. We have to rewrite those rules.
It's so interesting that you use the term segregation, which is a weighted word that I think people relate to, especially when it comes to education.
I don't use flowery words.
No, you're a very direct communicator.
Do you feel like you're ready for tomorrow?
Using her words, as direct as they can sometimes be, caught the attention of Sarah Herlinger, the head of global accessibility at Apple. The company selected Zimmerman as a distinguished educator.
What does it mean for you when you see Jordan express herself as a human being personally on your devices?
It just makes me happy. I mean, Jordan has one of the best sense of humor, and to watch her facial expression as she has that thing that she wants to express, and then she types it out, and just gets that kind of wry smile in her face. And I love the fact that our technology is really just helping her show the world exactly who she is.
I can access live speech through assistive touch. Should I show you?
Sure. Zimmerman offered me a tutorial of Apple's live speech feature that she uses.
No matter where I am on iPad or what app is open, I can double tap that assistive touch button, which allows me to open the live speech accessibility feature.
It's amazing. It's opened up the whole world to you.
So we left with some new tech skills and a lesson on resilience, too.
My 8-year-old child, who is on the autism spectrum, is she growing up in a more understanding world than an 8-year-old you grew up in, Jordan?
It's my hope. It's why I'm engaged in this work, so all kids can thrive, be understood, and have the tools they need to succeed in the world, whatever they decide to do.
Every time I present and share my story, I impact one person. I feel good and am proud about changing the narrative in that way. I know I can't change the world alone, but I can certainly create ripples to facilitate meaningful improvements. and help show that we all have valuable contributions to make.
We stay in New York, where a number of emerging tech companies are working on products to improve women's health. Meg Oliver meets with female entrepreneurs whose companies aim to close the gender gap in healthcare.
So it's not metal, it's very soft, it's very comfortable.
Alicia Chong Rodriguez is the co-founder of the Bloomer Bra, an undergarment with a secret weapon, sensors that track health information to detect and fight heart disease in women.
What kind of data are you collecting and how does that help the doctor?
So we collect data to detect arrhythmia triggers. We also collect breathing patterns, temperature, posture, and movement. These symptoms might get dismissed or unrecognized.
The data is sent to a cell phone app and allows the woman to share it with her doctor. Chong Rodriguez's company, Bloomer Tech, is hoping to get FDA approval for the bra as a medical device.
So most of the data we've always collected has been predominantly male, but we actually needed data from women to build better tools to early detect and treat patients with heart disease.
More than 60 million women in the United States are living with some form of heart disease. But a study by the American Heart Association shows women are not getting the same level of care as men.
You put it on here, it's super simple.
That trend is inspiring more female entrepreneurs to develop technology specifically for women.
So it has all of your heart risk factors.
Like Mayan Cohen, the CEO of Hello Heart, who designed a monitor to track everything from blood pressure and cholesterol to weight and activity. The data is sent in real time to an app which is available through employer health plans.
We have AI-based digital coaching that help you improve your health in real time. And we also have Risk Alert that help you catch risk in time.
For these women, the mission is personal.
My grandma, we lost her to a heart attack when I was only 13 years old. We need better tools, and now we can do something about it.
Taking care of women's hearts to help them beat the odds.
Coming up, how an unlikely group of women are demonstrating the healing power of dialogue. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. The ongoing Israel-Hamas war has stoked intense division both abroad and at home. But an inspiring group of women from Jewish and Palestinian backgrounds are working to bridge divides in Michigan. They've been talking to each other for more than 20 years and are now sharing their experience with a younger generation. Lisa Ling sits down with the women to hear what they have to say.
So I am in Ann Arbor, Michigan right now, and I've been invited to join a group of Jewish and Palestinian women to do something that seems pretty impossible these days, which is they get together and talk.
24 hours, you have no time to...
But before they talk, they eat. A delicious spread made by tonight's host, Wadad Abed, who is Palestinian and one of the founders of the group. 93-year-old Irene Butter, a survivor of the Holocaust, takes her final sips of wine before the group segues to the living room, where the heaviness of the Israeli-Palestinian crisis sets in.
It's been really tough lately with all the news, lots of crying, lots of tears.
The worst part for me is that I don't see an ending.
These women, 6 Jewish and 6 Palestinian, have been meeting twice a month for over 20 years. They call themselves Zaytuna, the Arabic word for olive tree. Their motto, refusing to be enemies.
Every woman in the group here, I feel, is like a sister.
I don't even see Jewish or Palestinian anymore. I just see human beings.
Each session has specific ground rules which allow for each member to speak freely.
You're throwing something out for people to think about and react to. And people build on that.
The safety of this environment has allowed these women to remain committed to each other in the face of October 7th and after.
You absorbed my pain as I absorbed your pain.
Coming here is a safe place to be, to express my emotions, and to be with people who feel the same way about the misery and what's happening in Gaza, and of course all the other deaths in Israel too.
Thank you to Grace for mentioning Israel. That really matters to me.
Have you all talked about ways in which you think that we could get to a better place?
We're seeing communities dig in and lose a perspective that there's room in a humanitarian way to recognize the trauma of the other.
But that doesn't mean conversations are easy.
I feel that Zionism deprived me of my rights to be a full-fledged Palestinian in my ancestral home.
When Wadad brings up Zionism, the movement for the development and protection of the State of Israel, it's clear among some of the Jewish women there are conflicted feelings.
It is hard for me to absorb that being Jewish and being a Zionist of sorts, I can't reject my growing up there and becoming part of the culture of Israel, that somehow I have to sever that, and I can't, and so it's painful.
My journey has been, how do I hold on to the love I had for the land and yet distance myself from a government that is doing unimaginable things right now?
These women strive for peace, and their efforts to promote it extend far beyond this room, including on college campuses, which have become deeply polarized. At the University of Michigan, 2 students, one Jewish and one Palestinian, started the Arab-Jewish Alliance more than a year ago to foster better relations between cultures. The club sought out Zaytuna for mentorship.
I grew up Jewish, and the only time when I ever met Arab students was in my Arabic class. I started talking to people in my class. I was like, how can we bring Arab students and Jewish students together? And this kind of set us down this path.
I think the week after October 7th, I was looking on Twitter and I saw the rhetoric, the dehumanizing rhetoric. And so I thought, I want to find a club where I can actually interact with people on the other side, because I hadn't had a chance to interact with people.
You are the future.
For the Zaytunas, who are mostly over 60, these young students embody the mission they've spent decades building.
I think that when you meet a group like Zaytuna, who's been around for so many years, I think it reassures you that these friendships, they can last forever.
As a Holocaust survivor, this is what I learned. All human beings are the same. And if we could only realize that, then I think we could build a better world.
From healing conversations to life-saving interventions, California has one of the highest kill rates at animal shelters in the country, as shelters across America struggle with overcrowding. CBS Los Angeles' Amanda Sarantino introduces us to a woman whose nonprofit is saving lives, one dog at a time.
Just a short time ago, this playful pup's life had an end date. Nala had 14 days until she would be euthanized.
She was the sweetest, most friendly dog, and it's like, how could this dog be put down?
Colleen and Larry Smith are dog people, but Nala is their first rescue.
I was nervous about it because you don't know what you're going to get.
A lot of times dogs like Yogi here in the shelter just needed an advocate to support them to be able to find their forever home, and that's where Frost Fund comes in.
And right now, California is the #1 state in the United States with the highest kill rate at shelters.
Brittany Scheffler is the mind and heart behind Frost Fund.
We do our best here when we can to advocate for specific red-listed dogs at the Long Beach shelter.
Frost Fund is a nonprofit organization providing education and advocacy for animals. One part of their mission is a focus on red list dogs, dogs that need to be placed out of the shelter or they will be put down.
They are not bad dogs. We do our best to relay that accurate information and to give these dogs who might not otherwise be seen that chance of really being pushed out.
Frost Fund's Red List rescue team makes these dog stories go viral and hopes the right person sees it. It's simply a group of people who just share Frost Fund's Instagram posts. And this method, it's working. Since Frost Fund started doing this last year, 13 dogs have been saved. One of those dogs was a dog named Snickerdoodle. Now we know her as
Nala.
She had been found as a stray and taken to a shelter to be adopted and let loose again, then adopted by an elderly couple who surrendered her, leading Nala to be on the red list status.
When Larry saw her post, though, the couple connected with Frost Fund, and they had Scheffler assist with the entire adoption process.
Just gives you kiss after kiss after kiss, kind of like a thank you for taking me.
Saving Nala's life and changing theirs.
Ahead, a long overdue honor for the real-life Rosie the Riveters. That story is next. We close our show commemorating an iconic symbol for women in the workforce, Rosie the Riveter. She represented the millions of women who stepped into jobs vacated by men during World War II. These barrier-breaking women were recently awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, one of our nation's highest civilian awards. I spoke with some surviving Rosies to learn about how they helped America's armed forces and changed America forever.
And we did it as fast as we could, but I imagine it took, I'm sure, half a day to do a whole side.
At the age of 99, Susan King still wields a rivet gun like she did building warplanes at Baltimore's Eastern Aircraft Factory.
Was it hard work?
No.
And
the gun was light, wasn't this heavy?
It wasn't that heavy. This is a good
That's heavy.
5 pounds.
Mrs. King was 18 and among some 20 million women credentialed as defense workers, filling the jobs men left behind once drafted to fight in World War II.
Tens of thousands of women are already at work in aircraft.
Known as Rosie the Riveters, these can-do women were recognized through an iconic image promoting the war effort, sporting that signature red polka-dotted bandana.
I'm Rosie. I was a riveter, and I worked on the wing section of an airplane.
But once the war was over, while veterans received ticker tape parades and medals, the Rosies were ignored. Only decades after the war did their service become appreciated.
Why did it take this long?
I think there are two parts to that. The first part is because they're women.
Historian Gregory Cook produced and directed Invisible Warriors, a soon-to-be-released documentary shining light on those even more forgotten.
I don't think white women have ever gotten their just due as Rosies for the work they did during World War II. And then we go into black women. Mrs. King is the only black woman I've met who understood her role and significance as a Rosie. Most of these women have gone to their graves, including my mother, not understanding her historic significance.
Mrs. King joins a short list of surviving war workers devoting the rest of their lives to educating generations behind them, including her own daughter, Camille.
Did you have to put pants on?
Yeah, I'd put pants on, but prior to that time, women didn't wear pants in the streets.
The Glenn L. Martin Aviation Museum in Maryland has preserved that collective memory.
We were making destroyers.
Along with another sacred site in Richmond, California, where 98-year-olds Marion Souza and Jean Gibson regularly hold court at the Rosie the Riveter National Historic Park, which sits on the shoreline where battleships were once made.
You know, we lived in a time of history that is past, and it was a good time to live. People trusted one another, and everybody worked together to get that war over with. I mean, everybody did something.
For her, it was a family effort.
My two sisters were welders, and my mother was the spray painter.
Her sister pushed to recognize the Rosies, resulting in an invitation to the White House in 2014 after then Vice President Biden got a letter from her. More recently, there is the occasional celebrity treatment, as Jean Gibson enjoyed at a Golden State Warriors game. But here's the takeaway. The Rosies were leaders of change.
Well, it gave me a backbone, and you know there was a lot of men who still were holding back on this. They didn't want the women out of the kitchen.
The one thing that I'd like to add to the change of your life is that I wasn't afraid to try new things after that. I got my pilot's license when I was in my 40s.
I went to college, and I got my AA degree when I was 64.
Susan King did too, using her $55 a week factory check to earn a teaching degree. Then her daughter followed in her footsteps.
In my mind, I was not a factory worker. I was doing something to make money so I wouldn't have to be a maid.
Yeah, there were some badass women, they were. And they were all raised to be ladies, which is a term that's fallen out of favor these days. But they were all ladies, but there were some badass women.
Pure and simple.
Pure and simple.
Without them, of any color, where would the war effort have been?
The war would have definitely taken longer to win.
So when the Rosies descend on the nation's capital, they bring with them the knowledge of their lifetime of service.
We must call upon women.
And a revolutionary spirit that helped make their generation great.
So why is it important for you to be among those 30 women who are going to Washington, D.C. to receive that medal?
I guess I've lived long enough to be black and important in America. And that's the way I put it. If I were not near 100 years old, if I were not black, if I had not done these, I would never been gone to Washington.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.